Hello and very warm welcome to the sessions of Indian economy. Today we will formally begin with the syllabus. In last class we have seen how to approach the syllabus of Indian economy, right? So module based study that we will be following, and here we will begin our first module related to microeconomics, right? First module related to microeconomics, but before that, first we will be discussing introduction to economy or introduction to economics. First we will discuss this, and then topics of microeconomics will be followed, right? So let's understand, when we say economy, right, what do we mean by economy? When we say economy, what do we mean by this? So economy means any area or region that may be real or virtual. Any area or region that may be real or virtual, having defined set of rules, and institutions having defined set of rules and institutions to implement those rules is known as economy, right? So any area that may be real or virtual, having defined set of rules and institutions to implement those rules, is known as economy. Now let's understand this. When we say area real or virtual, what do we mean by this? When we say real area, for example, a production house is there, or for example an industrial setup is there, a farm is there where production of food crops, food grains is taking place, an industrial setup is there where production of clothes, footwear, etc. is taking place. That is known as what? Real area. But the way we are communicating, right, the way you are receiving education services, the way I am providing education services, this is a virtual mode, right? So any area or region which may be real or virtual. Now COVID has made us understand the importance of virtual area as well. So real or virtual, having defined set of rules. Now we have some set of rules. For example, when we say economy, we understand one thing. We talk about area or a region. That means it is a kind of territorial concept. It is a kind of what? Territorial concept. We are talking about a territory, right? For example, when we say Indian economy, we are talking about area of Indian. When we say economy of Mumbai, when we say economy of Maharashtra, when we say economy of Delhi, so economy is a territorial concept. Whenever we will say economy, we will talk about a particular region or a particular territory, right? So economy is a territorial concept. It talks about area or a region. Now that area can be real or virtual, having defined set of rules. When we say defined set of rules, what do we mean by this? So for example, China is also having an economy, so Chinese economy. US is also having an economy, that is US economy, right? Entire European Union is having an economy, that is economy of entire European Union. That means what? Having defined set of rules. These economies are having different rules of them. So different rules. For example, when we talk about a capitalist economy, there are different rules of capitalist economy. When we talk about socialist economy, there are different rules of socialist economy, right? So we will understand what exactly capitalist economy, socialist economy are, but I hope you are able to understand different set of rules are there in every economy, right? And that is why we talk about defined set of rules. And all economies are having what? Institutions. Having only set of rules will not suffice the work, right? We need to have institutions as well to implement those rules. For example, we are having institution as Reserve Bank of India. We are having institutions such as Securities Exchange Board of India. SEBI is also one of the institution, right, which will regulate stock market, securities, bond market, etc. RBI is for regulation of banks, etc., right? So we have institutions to implement those rules that we are making, is known as what? Economy, right? I hope we are able to understand this. Any area or a region which is real or virtual, having defined set of rules and institutions to implement those rules. Now, what are institutions? Institutions can be defined as a body which are having two things. One is, for example, any particular objective, right? One is any particular objective, and second is what do we mean by objective? For example, when we say RBI, to regulate banks. When we say monetary policy committee, to talk about or to take decision on repo rate, etc., right? So monetary policy decision, for monetary policy decisions, monetary policy committee is there. So having an objective and a structure, also, right? So having two things, one is objective and other is structure. This is known as what? Economy, right? I hope we are able to understand this. When we say economy, it is a territorial concept. We talk about any area which is real or virtual, having any area or region, real or virtual, having defined set of rules and institutions to implement those rules. The reason I am repeating it for so many times, because it should ingrained in our mind, and we should have clarity with respect to the kind of definition we have seen so far, right? Now, this is about economy. Then what is economics? Then we say, what is economics? And what is the difference between economy and economics? When we say economics, first we have to understand it is a kind of study of choices. Now, why we need to have choices first? Let's first understand why we need to have choices. So, for this, we have to understand one thing, that human wants are unlimited. When we say human wants are unlimited, what does we mean by this? Human wants, what do we mean by this? Human wants are unlimited. We have lots of wants, right? We need 10 cars, 20 houses, right? 5,000 clothes, thousands of footwears, etc. So we need lot many things. That means our wants are what? Unlimited. But we have to understand one thing, that the resources to satisfy those wants, resources to satisfy those unlimited wants are limited. To satisfy unlimited wants are limited. Now, what do we mean by this? For example, we might have a want of having two iPhones, or at least one iPhone, one MacBook, and also other devices of Apple, but we don't have that much money available to us. That means we have limited resources. Resources are limited. Resources to satisfy those wants are limited, but wants are unlimited. Now, what happened in this particular case? This particular idea that human wants are unlimited and resources to satisfy those wants are limited, this gives an idea about scarcity of resources, right? Scarcity of resources. Now, what do we mean by scarcity? Scarcity means something which is available in less quantity than its required quantity. So availability is less. Availability is less than the required quantity, right? For example, we can talk about the scarcity of money. We can talk about scarcity of raw materials. For example, if you want to have for example, you want to have 100 numbers of automobiles, right? 100 cars you need. Now, do we have production of that much steel that is required to produce 100 cars for each person in the country? Right. So that is how resources are in scarcity. And resources, every time resources do not mean only money. Resources may be raw material also. Resources may be the kind of available workforce also. So these are resources, right? So resources, not only we are talking about money. When we say resources are in scarce, we are also talking about raw materials. We are also talking about the investment, the money, the fund, the capital that is needed to carry out any production activity, right? So these are the things that we have to understand. Availability is less than the required quantity. This is known as what? Scarcity. Now, what happens in scarcity? When the resources are in scarcity, we have to make choices, and study of these choices is known as what? Economics. Study of these choices known as what? Economics. So study of choices is known as what? Study of choices in scarcity is known as what? Economics, right? Now, what is the difference between economy and economics? When we study the choices or in the presence of scarcity, we understand lots of theory, lots of principles, right? Lots of theory, principles, laws, right? And many other things. So theory, principle, laws, etc. When we apply all these understanding, right, all these understanding of theory, principles, laws, etc., then it becomes what? Economy. So when we apply these rules, regulations, theories, principles, etc., to a particular territory, then this particular for this particular territory, it becomes what? Economy of that particular territory. For example, when we apply all these things in the territory of India, it becomes what? Indian economy. When we apply all these principles, theory, etc., in Delhi, so it will become what? Economy of Delhi, etc., right? So I hope you can understand the difference between economics and economy. Now, how it is different from the subject? Economics is different from economy. For example, in UPSC, if we talk about in UPSC, we have optional paper of economics. We have optional subject as economics, right? But if we talk about GS paper 3 paper, in GS paper 3 we don't have subject economics, rather we have Indian economy and related issues. So when we say Indian economy, that means what? We don't have to study entire economics. Economics is a very huge branch of science, whereas we have to study microeconomics, macroeconomics, right? Microeconomics, macroeconomics, developmental theories, etc. So microeconomics, theories of development, and many other things. For example, money, banking, etc. Now, when we study Indian economy, here we have to study money, here we have to study banking, right? But when we study Indian economy, here also we study microeconomics. A very small part we study related to microeconomics, and majorly we focus on macro, right? Macro. But application part of macro in Indian economy. So Indian economy majorly we have to study here, right? We will study money and banking, but with respect to its application part, we will be studying money as well as banking, but with respect to its application part in Indian economy, right? In Indian economy. So this is idea about economy and economics. Economy is when we apply principles of economics to a particular territory, it become economy, right? So economy of that particular territory. So we can talk about economy of different region. It can be of a village also, right? Economy of a particular village, that also can be the idea, right? So I hope we are clear with the kind of distinction between economics and economy. So this is optional subject when we say economics, and it is GS subject when we say economy, mainly related to Indian economy, right? This is the idea that we are having here. Now, let's understand what is difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. So when we say microeconomics, we are mainly focusing on individual units. Individual units. For example, we are talking about individual crop, like a crop of onion. We are talking about an individual industry, for example, steel industry, right? It's steel industry. These are the study related to one particular sector, one particular commodity. Hence it is known as what? Microeconomics. Now what do we mean by macroeconomics? Macroeconomics, it is not about the individual units, rather it is about economy as a whole. So it studies economy as a whole, right? It studies economy as a whole, hence it becomes what? Macroeconomics. It will not talk about onion, steel, etc., rather it will be talking about entire industrial structure. So entire all industries present in the country or that particular territory. It will be talking about all the food grains that are available or all the vegetables, etc., right? Here we talk about price of a particular commodity, price of a particular commodity, right? changes, here we study in microeconomics price change with respect to one particular commodity. But when we talk about macroeconomics, here we study about inflation. What do we mean by inflation? Inflation is general price rise in an economy over a sustained period of time of a basket of commodities. For example, here in inflation we take around 500 to 600 commodities sometimes to understand what is the price rise, average price rise with respect to the weightage attached. Whatever consumption pattern is there, with consumption pattern we attach weightage also. We will study inflation in a detailed manner, so as of now don't there is no need to struggle in the definition of inflation, but just you can understand one thing, that it is about price change in over 500 to 600 commodities, and it is about price change of one particular commodity. This is known as microeconomics and this is known as macroeconomics. When we study microeconomics, while studying microeconomics, or while study, we keep macroeconomics variable constant. We keep macroeconomic variables as constant, right? Macroeconomic variables as constant. And when we study macroeconomics, we keep microeconomics variable as constant. So microeconomic variables as constant while studying macroeconomics. You will be getting handwritten handouts for all the discussion that we are doing here, so you can prepare a running note as I am writing. You can also keep on writing, scribbling on paper, but you will be getting entire handouts where everything is written quite in a neat manner, so that you can understand very well, right? Which will help you to revise the topic as well. So this is micro and this is macro. There is one more difference that we can understand about normative economics and positive economics. So positive economics and normative economics. What do we mean by positive economics and normative economics? So when we say positive economics, we study facts here. Facts, right? Here we study facts. Here we study what ought to be. What ought to be. Now let's understand what exactly it is, right? When we say facts, for example, what is, when I say infant mortality rate, for example, when I say infant mortality rate is 200 per thousand, now it is a fact. It is a fact. But when I say there should be poverty eradication in an economy, poverty eradication, so poverty should be eradicated, so poverty eradication should be there. I am saying what should happen. So what ought to be, what should happen. Here we are talking about fact, right? Positive. Now this fact can have positive implication as well as negative implication. For example, if I say infant mortality rate is 900 per thousand, now it is having negative implication. That means healthcare infrastructure is very bad in that particular country. So negative connotation, but it is known as study of positive economics because we are studying what fact here. But when we say normative economics, it is about what should happen, right? It is what should happen. It is about value judgment, and it is about facts. So it is about value judgment. Positive, it will, your economy will be judged positively or negatively. Here it is only about study of facts, right? So this is about positive economics and normative economics, right? This is the idea, basic idea related to economics, economy, positive economics, normative economics, etc. Now let's study a concept of microeconomics. Now this is enough with respect to the definition or basic understanding we need about economy, economics, etc. Now let's understand very important fact of microeconomics. So officially we are beginning what? Microeconomics module now. First topic that we need to study here is market forces. I hope you must have heard this word, market forces or market mechanism. When we say market forces, market mechanism, etc., basically we are talking about forces of demand and supply. Forces of demand and supply. So our objective is to study what? Demand and supply here. So let's study demand and supply in the next video, right? So thank you very much. See you in the next class.